Hello, boys and girls. This is Nick Bone from the Ready Working Show, where we speak with a variety of guests on their experiences entering the workforce, the tips and tricks they use to be successful, as well as perspectives from the other side of the table as recruiters and employment specialists. Our guest today is Kyle Henry. He is a real estate agent at Prime Real Estate, serving the London, Ontario region. Prior to real estate, Kyle was a recruiter and account manager for Aerotech. He is very experienced and knowledgeable in both fields. You can find him on Instagram at Kyle at Prime.
Perfect. Hey, Kyle, great to have you here on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I know right now you're in real estate, and it's the perfect time to be in real estate because there's never been a better time to buy and sell.
Yeah.
However, before we get into your real estate experience, I kind of want to go into your journey about how you got here. So I thought we could start with, going over your college, university, what your plans were, what you were thinking, how you kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So I went to I started at college. So I went to Fanshawe College right out of high school, studying police foundations. I wanted to be a police officer ever since I was a kid. And then during my time at Fanshawe, I realized maybe I want to be a lawyer and kind of elevate it to the next kind of level, so to speak, in the law enforcement still industry, and become a prosecutor. So I went to university after Fanshawe and I studied criminology. And the reason I did that was because my credits transferred from Fanshawe. So I was able to do a 4-year degree in 2 years and just save all that time. And then somewhere along the way, I realized maybe I don't want to be a lawyer and read just pages and pages of all day. So then after university, I was able to get a sales job at a recruitment firm. So I started off as a recruiter, recruiting what we called commercial. So that was light industrial, warehousing, manufacturing type roles. And then quickly worked my way up to a sales manager role, where I started the professional services division there. So I was recruiting and selling our services to hire for accounting firms, not production, but procurement in manufacturing. So like supply chain, things like that. And then I was there for about 4 years, and then I got into real estate.
Wow. So to go back to your recruiting time, what exactly did you do? Like, did you look over resumes, cover letters, or did you kind of connect recruiters with potential interviewees, if you will?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we were actually kind of a one-stop shop. So we would solicit our services at the firm to corporations and companies who were hiring in the local marketplace. And then we would overhaul all of their hiring process. So we would do their screening, their onboarding, and then we would actually manage the contractors as they worked on site. So we would find out what the company was looking for as an ideal candidate, hire for them. So we would do a lot of phone screens, face-to-face interviews, and then also the reference check portion and all the screening and vetting. And then if we were kind of given the green light, we would either hire directly for the company or put them in for an interview with that company.
Right. So when you were doing this, what do you think or believe to be the number one reason that most people fail or were unsuccessful when they were trying to get a job?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to preparedness, right? Because if you're not prepared for the role, or if you don't even know anything about the company, like you have to do your homework. If you're not doing your homework, you're kind of dead in the water before you even start.
Right, exactly. So what kind of homework or suggestions would you give? Let's say for an international student who's currently studying at Western, they're going to apply for a job. What kind of steps or what process do you think they should go through to prepare themselves and give them that edge over all the other candidates?
Yeah, so something I used to tell candidates was you need to research the company, how many employees, what they do, because that comes up all the time and people are like stunned that question came up and they don't have an answer. You want to have questions for the interviewee or interviewers as well, right? Because they're asking you a ton of questions. There's always going to be a time at the end of the interview where you have now the opportunity to ask questions. And it goes a long way with somebody who's running an interview that you're interested further in the role and in the company. That's a huge portion that some people miss. They're like, no, I have no questions. See you later.
Right. Show you that you're interested and that you actually want the job.
That's right. Yeah. So having questions is a big one, and then just being prepared with your answers. Now you don't know what they're going to ask you, but you can be prepared in the methodology that you use to answer a question. So
Right.
something called STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. Pretty much are telling them a story with your answer rather than saying yes or no. Explain to them an actual situation that occurred to you and how you came to a resolution, whether it was positive or negative. Maybe you learned from something. You didn't do it right, but you learned.
Right. And it also demonstrates your communication skills, right? Being able to actually explain so that somebody can understand the
That's
experience you
absolutely
had.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So after this, you said you moved into the management position?
Yeah. So after recruiting, I was recruiting for about 10 months, and then I got promoted into a sales manager role. We called it the account manager role. So my job then switched from talking to candidates to actually going out and selling our services to customers.
Okay.
I was targeting big corporations like Canada Life,
Wow.
Lincoln was like those were some of the big corporations I was going after to start kind of recruiting and use our services.
So how did you do that? How
A
would you
lot,
go approach these
tons of
companies?
calling.
Yeah, cold call.
Yeah, a lot of rejection, and you just got to be
Right.
persistent and continue to call. Right, pleasantly persistent is what I used to call myself.
That's pretty well exactly what a job candidate has to do as well when they're going to these different companies, right?
100%. Trying to find a job in itself is a full time job, right? It's
Right.
not easy to find a job, especially right now with COVID-19. COVID-19's kind of put a pause on a lot of hiring. So, I mean, if you're looking for work or if you're kind of trying to get into the market, you need to work 10 times harder than every other candidate out there because they're trying to do the same thing.
Right. So you're into this almost like sales, which kind of segues into our real estate, right? So what really drove you to sales? Is there like one specific experience or anything that happened that you're like, you know what, I really want to get into sales?
You know what? I don't know if there was one thing that like happened and it was like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but
Right.
it's like I come from a competitive sports background. You know this. Like I was a competitive wrestler. I played rugby. Um, I like to win, and with sales, every time you get a signed contract, it's like that adrenaline rush again. It's like yes, I did that. So that's always enticing to me. I like that a lot, but also the fact that like I can help people, and if I'm repping a good product or a good service, and I know it's doing somebody good value or bringing somebody good value, I
Right.
pour my heart into what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we go into the transition to real estate. How did that happen? So you were at college, you wanted to be a police officer, you decided to go to university to elevate, become a lawyer.
Yeah.
You changed paths, you went into recruiting, management position, and then real estate.
So yeah, so it's a little bit confusing. So it goes further back than now we have to go into
Okay.
school years. So when I was in high school, I would go to Vancouver every summer to work with my brother. He owns a plumbing and heating company. So we did was work on new construction homes. We were building homes in some respect. And I loved that aspect of construction and real estate and being able to take pretty much raw piece of dirt and land and at the end of a couple of months have this amazing home.
Right.
Then once I got into my recruitment job, I loved business. I found business to be super interesting to me. I really had a knack for it. So I was able to combine two passions of mine without having to continue to do the breaking back labor and
Right. Yeah.
influence myself and say, hey, let's bring in the business aspect, but get back to new construction at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So you essentially refound your passion.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. It was, you know what, and I'm loving every second of it. Like I work with builders and I'm on new construction sites. If you check my Instagram out, like you probably see me on new development sites all the time now.
What
So
is your Instagram? Just so that the
it's Kyle at Prime.
perfect. Do you have any other social media that you want to?
I have people like I have Facebook, but like everything's linked to that Instagram account. So
Okay.
if they finds it, they'll have access to like literally everything.
Perfect. And do you just do London, Ontario, or do you like Southwestern Ontario?
So we like London. So my brokerage is set up where our geographic footprint and what we specialize really in is pretty much Lake Huron to Lake Erie, and then Woodstock to Sarnia. That's kind of our
Okay.
territory that we specialize in. So we've got a couple new projects happening out in Blue Point, which is like 10, 15 minutes away from Sarnia.
Okay.
And then we've also got new development projects happening on the other lake, Lake Erie in Port Stanley. So like I'm kind of all over the map.
Yes. Perfect. So I was wondering if you had any advice that you could give to a smart and driven student,
Mhm.
in university or college, who is about to enter the real world. Because let's say, for example, they're also thinking, oh, I'm going to go through college to do this, I'm going to go through university to be an accountant or to do business.
Yeah.
Would you give them any advice or suggestions on how to look or search for the kind of passion that you have for your
Yeah.
job?
So I would. So it's so funny that you asked that question. It's such a good question, and my answer is far different than it would have been 4 years ago. My
Right,
answer today is try as many things as you can while you're young. People try and they have to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life by the time they graduate university or college. And it's just impossible. Like,
it is.
you
Yeah,
can't make that decision at 21. You just can't, because it's going to change over the course of your lifetime. And people say, like, the statistic is people will change their career 2 to 3 times during their lifetime. So to hunker down and say, hey, this is it forever, it's going to be tricky. So
right,
try, say yes to opportunities. That's something that I've changed over the last 4 years too. Is if an opportunity comes up, I just say yes.
right,
You don't know what kind of doors it will open in the future for you, right?
right, exactly.
In a lane that's comfortable to you, you're never going to grow. You have to get uncomfortable. So that
Right.
would be my advice. If it
Be
scares you,
uncomfortable for growth. Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
I don't know if you watched the Mike Tyson fight last night,
I
but
seen some of it, but
crazy. But one of the things that he said before the fight, one of his pre-interview things was, if I'm scared of something, I just do it.
right, yeah,
That's how you grow. That's how you expand in your life. So that would be my advice.
exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable or you're uncertain about, a lot of it's because we're afraid of failure, right? We don't want to fail, but you have to just do it. You have to try.
Absolutely. Couldn't
So
agree more.
I think that's a good segue into my next question, which is how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
Oh my God. Every single um it's always a learning opportunity. Like I'm technically new and untenured in the real estate game, but everything that I've done up to this point has been a learning opportunity. So it it may be the wrong decision or the wrong move that's led to maybe a hiccup or in a
Right,
deal or something like that. But now I know for next time not to do that or do it a different way or have it a different angle, right?
right.
Um,
Would you
people
have a favorite failure? Like something that was like significant, like you were like, "Oh, this really sucks," but actually later down the road it helped you significantly.
yeah, favorite failure. That's such a good question. I would say, oh, I don't know. I may have to come back to this question because I don't know off the top of my head a favorite failure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it could even be something about like how, you said you were going to university to be a lawyer and
Yeah,
then you transitioned. It's not necessarily a failure, but
yeah,
it's
that's
a
not
learning point.
necessarily a failure. That's a good. That's a good. That's actually fair because I wouldn't have been able to get the job at that recruitment firm without my university degree.
Right.
So if had I not have done that, I wouldn't have been able. My life would be way different because my business knowledge and my business acumen wouldn't have been there for me to carry on and join into the real estate game. Knowing what I know, I would have been far behind where I am today if I didn't do that.
Right. Exactly.
So even though I didn't, even though I went to university, spent all that money, didn't do the law route, which I wanted to,
Right.
led me into a direction that has helped me and kind of propelled me into the status I am right now.
Right. Because I think a lot of times we shouldn't think failure as something bad. Like you said, it should be something that we learn from and that we can grow from. So
And there's like that list of failures is long. I just couldn't figure out a pick.
yeah, I think we all have a big list of failures.
Totally.
So, how about you tell me more about the real estate market? Do you know like what's going on in the London area?
It's booming right now. So
Yeah,
London specifically has seen exponential growth in terms of overall average purchase price. So, for
wow,
example, in 2019 to 2020 October, for example, we saw a 22% increase in average purchase price, which is wild
wow, that's insane.
during COVID-19, right?
Right,
It's just been incredible, and the activity in the market is very hot. Like there's times where I go into a deal where we're trying to submit an offer for maybe first time home buyers, and there's maybe 15 other offers on the board, and it's like, okay, it's getting a little competitive.
Yeah, what would you suggest to these new time home buyers? What can they do?
Yeah, so a lot of the time, so it's so funny because people always think, "Hey, I'm looking to buy a house. Let's start with a real estate agent. It's kind of slow down to speed up a little bit. You always want to talk to a mortgage broker first, whether that's with your bank or an independent mortgage broker themselves, and understand what you're qualified for or pre-approved for, because then we can actually go shopping in the right price range and not kind of get discouraged if we're too ahead of ourselves.
Do you find that often to be the case with first time home buyers where they kind of overestimate what, like you said, almost like what the market is going for? Like you said, 22%, that's crazy. So if you see a house for, let's say, $400,000 in London, it could actually end up selling for about 550,
Yeah, correct.
right?
And we've
So,
seen that, right? We've seen sometimes where they've sold over $100,000 over asking price. With first-time homebuyers, it's all about education, right? Because to our earlier point, this is new and it's scary, and we're kind of nervous to do it. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that we want to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
right,
And when we go out and we try and find you the home, we can do it the right way, and there's no panicking at the end of the day.
exactly.
It's a big purchase, right? You want to make sure you've got your ducks in a row, your T's are crossed, and your I's are dotted. That way, when you know you've got something good, we can go at it with our best foot forward.
So how about the students? So I know there's a lot of rental properties in London as well. How's that market? Have you looked at that at all or
Yeah,
heard of
so
it? Yeah.
I do some investing. So majority of my book of business is kind of new development homes, but I
Okay.
definitely have worked with a number of investors. And the rental market is incredibly hot, and it's going to actually increase probably because of the purchase price, right?
Right.
For home buyers, it's tricky for people to qualify for 500, $600,000 homes. So a lot of the time, you're still renting and saving up and trying to work on that down payment. So we're probably going to see an increase in rental properties in London specifically um, over the next couple of years.
Do you think that would be beneficial to students or international students who are looking to study in London at university or college?
Getting into a rental property
Yeah,
to buy it or to rent out.
potentially both.
Yeah, I mean, if they can afford a rental property, it's always a good decision, right? And diversify your investment portfolio. But if you're looking to rent, I'm sure that international students won't have a problem trying to rent out, whether it's a single family home, an apartment building, or anything like that.
Oh, and if they do have any investment questions regarding property, they can always reach out to you as well, right?
100%.
Perfect. So another question for you. I know you love them. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love or that you love to do?
Yeah, I have so many weird quirks about myself. So one thing is if I have like just loose cash,
Yeah.
my wallet, they all have to be in correct order from lowest to highest, and all the faces, all the money have to be in the same direction.
Oh, really?
That's something that I do.
That's
I know, even if I just have it in my pocket, it's not in my wallet. I have to line them up the right way, and
oh wow.
yeah, it's weird, super weird. What else? Because there's a ton. Um, my checklists.
Yeah.
So I have a paper copy of my checklist, and then I use Monday.com as kind of like an external brain. My paper checklist has like I'll put everything on there, like even if it's not work related, like call mom,
Right.
just girlfriend. Like I
Brush
put
teeth.
everything on. Yeah, honestly, brush like so it looks like I'm scratching out a ton, but I find that because you can kind of get when you have a long checklist, it can sometimes feel like it's a lot of weight on your shoulders and it's a lot of pressure and stress that you don't really need to have because it's not. It's just your brain tricks you into thinking, oh my God, this is an insanely busy day. So I put everything on there, and then in my head, I try and line them up like patio stones, like on a
Right.
walkway. Instead of up, they're out. So then
Oh, okay.
I just hop on one patio stone, get it done, hop to the next, hop to the next. And then it's not pressure, it's just how many patio stones can I cover?
And every time you check one off as well, that's highly motivating as well, right?
Yeah,
You don't get overwhelmed by the pressure because even if you were to put like brush teeth on there, check it off, that first check gets you going. I completed it. Let's go to the next one.
exactly. It's all about tricking your mind. Instead of being stressed and pressured, it's hey, how many can I accomplish? How many can I get done today?
And I
Right?
think that's also extremely important in career planning and even job search, being able to make these checklists and these plans for long term
Big
and
time.
short term as well, right?
I'm a big proponent of external brain, whether it's paper copy, electronic. Like you have to kind of get your thoughts down somewhere, right?
Right. That way you can focus.
Yeah, things will slip, things will fall to the wayside. Get it on there. If you don't get it done today, guess what? You've got tomorrow. Do it tomorrow.
Right.
But get as many as you can done. That way it'll relieve your pressure. You'll feel accomplished. You can just move on.
Yeah, and even if you don't get it all done today, you don't have to feel like a failure, because I know sometimes even when I have a checklist, because I do the same thing, if I don't check everything off, I'm like, oh, I didn't finish it today. Like, what's going on? Why couldn't I do it? And then I'm just like, tomorrow's a new day. Right?
You categorize it, right? You can categorize it from most urgent to least urgent, right?
Right.
Least at the top, most urgent, because those are the things that people don't want to do, right? Then it's when it's like, no, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it. And then it never gets done. Do it. It's not as bad as you think it is. Move on to the next.
You can always add a few easy ones in there too, right? To give you that little confidence boost. That's good. So I think it's also good to talk about feeling overwhelmed. So whenever you feel overwhelmed or confused, unfocused, you feel lost, what do you usually do other than resort back to your checklist or refer to your checklist?
Yeah. So like everybody's got their own kind of form of meditation.
Right.
Mine's the gym for sure. Like if I'm stressed out or if I get those feelings of overwhelmed, which happens all the time, I take it out kind of in the gym, right? And I'll just either go for a run or I'll lift heavier weights than I normally do, just try and kind of get the frustrations out.
Right.
And then I also, it's a huge, it clears my mind, which is funny because I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling like that, all I can think about while I'm in the gym is the problem or the feeling of being overwhelmed. But at the end of that hour, it's gone. And I feel kind of organized. I know what to do. I've got a path and that's it. So
it's
that's
like clearing your mind, right?
Yeah. Even though it's clutter, even though throughout the entire workout, I'm just thinking about that problem. But by the end of it, I have the solution and I can kind of continue on.
Right. You're working through it. You're focusing. Right.
That's exactly it.
And it helps with the blood flow too, doesn't it? They said exercise and working out increases blood flow, which helps with.
Yeah. My broker actually says like every time he feels like that, he'll just literally stop what he's doing and just go for a quick walk.
Right? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just get out and just put the problem down for a second, regroup, and then come back to it, right? Even if it's 15 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's great to catch up.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I hope we can do it again sometime soon.
Of course.
And if you want, just shout out your socials again so people can get a hold of you if they're looking into real estate, investments, anything in the London area or even southwestern Ontario by the sounds of it.
Yeah, yes. Kyle at Prime. That's my Instagram handle. You'll find my phone number, my email, all of that's on there.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much again.
Thanks.
Thank you all for tuning into our show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and as always, learned something you didn't know before, or found something interesting you can talk about at the next family dinner, whenever that is. If there is a topic you would be interested in hearing us talk about or discuss, you can reach out to us at readyworking.com or email contact@readyworking.com.